Today we're going to chat all about engagement sessions. I actually really love talking about engagement sessions because I don't think people realize how important they are. And I feel like it makes such a big difference on your wedding day when you have one. I'm excited to chat all about it because I feel like more people should want to do them. People are like, if I'm going to save money by not doing an engagement session, but then I feel like their wedding photos are just so much harder to get done. That's just my opinion. What do you think? You don't do a lot of engagement sessions. So.
I don't do them, but I can see on the day of who has and who hasn't. We can get a lot more done on the day if they've had an engagement session because they know what poses we're gonna do, and it gives us a good idea of which ones they liked and didn't like, especially if they're the kind of couple that would print some of their engagement photos either for their guest book or they printed it into little frames to have it all over their wedding. We've seen all kinds of different ways they've used engagement photos, especially for save the dates. There's lots of benefits to doing the engagement photos, not only for just you get more photos out of it, but the practice to learn working with us for the first time. And it's just another way that you can have fun, right? Especially practicing just being in front of the camera as a couple does not come naturally. And that's why we say it on our website.
It really doesn't come naturally. Even if I give you all of the tips and tricks, like I just did an engagement session on the weekend and it did take quite a bit of time for them to just feel comfortable. And it's nothing against them. It's just, it's a lot, like it's a lot of nerves. And she even said to me, I've been so nervous, like wrecking myself all week for this. And I wish I hadn't been because it was actually so fun and so easy. The idea is that it shouldn't be stressful, right? It should be something that you enjoy. And if you're stressed about it, imagine how you're going to be on your wedding day, right? Like this is just like a tiny little like practice photo shoot that doesn't have all of the pressures that come with a wedding, like all of the money and all of the things that go into a wedding day. Imagine you're just like leaving that up for a chance. Like, hopefully they're good. Hopefully I like the photos.
There's a lot of chance when you do that because, first of all, hopefully this photographer is good.
Yeah.
Because most of the time there's no practice session to your wedding other than the engagement. So you would meet them for the first time, especially after COVID. All the meetings are done virtually, and now you would just see them for the first time, be like, okay, cool, I guess you're the photographer and tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And if they tell you, put your hand here, do this, do that, and it takes 5 minutes of really getting into it because they've never practiced it before, it can really slow things down on a wedding day.
And they don't trust you because they don't really know, okay, like this feels awkward or like this, just putting my hand like this doesn't feel natural or whatever. And just me walking, like, why are we just walking? Like, this doesn't feel good. Like, how is this a good photo? Because they haven't seen what it looks like or what it translates to on the other side with them specifically. Of course, they've seen millions of photos of people holding hands and walking or people posing and like being cute together, but they haven't seen them doing that. Right? And I think that's the main difference. Now, there's tons of photographers and couples, I'm sure, that don't do engagement sessions, right? Like we've had couples who come from out of town and they just don't do one, right? Because they just don't live here. However, I still encourage the couple to get an engagement session in the town that they're in. At least have that experience with somebody hopefully who's similar enough to us so that way they can walk into the wedding day feeling confident and just trusting the process a little bit more, right? It'd be like as if you go to your first day of work and it's like your wedding day. You just have to know what to do, right?
There's no training manual on how to be a bride on your wedding day.
Yeah, and it's one day and it's your whole salary for the year and you just have to nail it.
I've never thought of it like that. But the confidence is on two sides, I think. It's also confident in yourself to be able to do it and know that it's going to look good, and confidence in your photographer to be able to direct you in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, as much as I'm a great photographer and I'm going to give you like my guidance on posing and try to make sure that you look good, we're our own hardest critics, right? Like I get my photos taken every year because I want to preach what we do and why we do it. However, it really doesn't mean that I'm going to love every single image that they take of me because I just don't like the way I look in certain ones. Sometimes I feel like I look angry, or I feel like I can see my back roll, or my arm looks big, or I'm making a weird thing with my eyes, or maybe my eyelashes got stuck together. Like there's all kinds of things. I mean, and then throw kids in the mix of that also just completely can throw me. Or like even my hair. As much as I do my hair and the photographer will say, fix my hair, it doesn't mean that every single shot it's going to be done, right? It just doesn't happen.
And that plays into getting your trials done for hair and makeup the same day as your engagement session. If you can line it up, I think that's a huge bonus to having the example of what it's going to look like, not only in person, but in photos. Because those also don't really translate black and white.
Yeah, and I know some artists don't like that because what they're doing for their wedding isn't necessarily what they should do for their engagement session. And I agree. I think to some extent, I think if you're going to put your hair up on your wedding day, you might not want to put your hair up for your engagement. I understand that. However, I feel like with wedding, like with your makeup, I see no problem with that, to be honest with me. I know that I've heard from makeup artists they don't like it, but to me, if I'm getting my makeup done, whether it's for my wedding or it's for my engagement photos, like I kind of want it to look the same, to be honest. I want it to look like I have makeup on, you know?
And that's another thing that we usually push is that you go a little bit more glam than usual because it may look over the top in person, depending on what your preferences are, but in photos, it generally comes out better.
Yeah, when I tell people that I went full glam in all of my photos, like they don't know. They really don't know. They can't tell. But I think it's so important to go full glam because I want it to look like I've had my makeup done. I can do my own makeup, but I just don't look the same as when I have it done professionally. And I want to feel confident. I think that's one of the main things too. Like I just feel more confident. I just have a little more pep in my step when I have my makeup done or my hair done or like a nice outfit that I'm comfortable in. Those are all things that really make a big difference. Another reason that I really push engagement sessions is that I find it's a really great way also for us to connect with the couple. Especially, I feel like, not to say anything, but the men aren't usually as invested in the wedding process as the women are. That's just what I found to be true in my experience. And so when I'm meeting a couple for the first time and there's a man, they're really just like not sure what's going on, right? Like,
I don't even want to be here. This isn't going to be fun.
Yeah, I feel like it's just kind of like another thing they have to check off, but it's not something that they're excited about, whereas the women are excited about. They've researched, they've gotten outfits, they've gone and gotten their nails done, their hair done, I don't know, waxing, you name it. Like we've done all the things to get prepared for it, whereas the guy's just like, okay, I shaved today and did my hair. Got a haircut last week.
And I have to wear these tight jeans. I don't really like it because she picked them out because I look good in them.
I feel like what happens during the engagement session, though, is that the men are generally very surprised at how much fun it is because it's not just like stand there and look pretty. If anything, they get more attention on that day. There's a lot more kissing, there's a lot more touching, there's a lot more like holding on to each other, holding hands. That romance that maybe even like sparked when you were first dating kind of like comes back through the engagement session because it's like you just like can't keep your hands off each other because that's what I want is like for you guys to be playful and flirty and have fun. And so I feel like it's also a really good way for the couple to just start to enjoy themselves and sort of be romantic with each other in a not so private setting, right? And
that only works for some people. There are some couples that don't really like the PDA, and you can kind of tell who they are in the beginning of the session. We have some tricks and tips that we use to get them out of their shell. A lot of it has to do with we surprise the guys by getting them to do piggybacks or lifts or spins, right?
Yeah.
And I think guys like that because it's like sporty or it's a challenge and they really want to nail it. And those are the kind of things that can really build that rapport with the guys.
Yeah.
We've had countless guys come up to us after it and say, wow, it was a lot less bad than I thought it was.
And boring.
Yeah, a lot less boring. It was actually a lot more fun than what I thought initially. And I think also the fact that you're if you've never had professional photos done as a couple, it's super fun to have that experience, but you just have to come into it with an open mind. I think if you're already disliking it when you're going into it, it's not going to be as fun of an experience, but you have to be just willing to do it.
And if all else fails, my last and final trick is to just make fun of them. I know that sounds mean, but if they're being grumpy, you better expect that I'm gonna make fun of you, because there's nothing easier to target than somebody who doesn't want to be there. It's so much easier for me to just make you laugh, because it's like, oh, this sucks. Oh, this is so hard getting all this attention, all this kissing and holding on to each other. Like, oh, it's so terrible. Trust me, I'm gonna make fun of you if you don't like it. So you better just like suck it up. So a big plus is to fully prepare yourselves to have fun and enjoy it, and try not to stress about it too much.
Yeah, I think one of our ways to make things a little bit more enjoyable as well is to bring some champagne.
Oh yeah. I mean, booze definitely helps. It definitely lightens things up. I know it sounds really weird and backwards, but they just really have a great time, because they realize like they were just totally wrong about what they thought that this would be like.
Yeah, and maybe they're excited about their wedding now.
Well, I feel like they just, when people think of getting photos done, they picture like a Sears portrait, or just like sitting in a studio where you're just like, this is what we're doing. It's very fun, it's light, it's romantic. It's supposed to be just like playful, I think is the best word to use.
And I think when couples reciprocate that with us, then we can go back and forth and come up with really good ideas together. Nothing is better than having a couple actually invest into their engagement session, either do some research of poses that they want, or they just play off of what we tell them and they do their own variations.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to manage an engagement session when everything you say is just put your hand here, and they would put their hand there, and they would just freeze and just wait for you to tell them to do the next thing until you tell them, okay, well, we're gonna start walking, and then they walk all robotic. We've had a couple robot guys before, right?
I know. Again, it just lays the foundation for me to make fun of them. But I feel like people get it once we explain to them, take what I tell you and like build from it, right? If I tell you to do this, you can move your hand here. And then after a couple of clicks, you can hear my camera, you can move your hand somewhere else, or you can move it here, or you can like grab onto each other tighter, or you can like kind of push away from each other. Like it's not just like stand there and like do this one thing. I want you to almost constantly be moving a little bit. Pretend you're in like a slow motion movie almost. And I love to throw in little tips and tricks, like pretend it's like a, what do you call it? Those vampire movies, a Twilight. Like think of it as like this Twilight scene where he just like romantically goes in and like grabs onto her face and like it's ever so softly trying to kiss her, very slow motion. Like those types of things are fun, and hopefully it gets them laughing and just having a good time. And that's really what I think people need to understand, is that it really is for us to build that connection, and so that on the wedding day, it just feels like I'm one of your friends that's come to hang out, but I just kind of happen to be bossing you around all day.
And have a camera.
And have a camera in my hand, but that's the vibe that I want it to be. I can still hold a conversation with you, but still tell you what to do, and then just kind of, I'm just there, but I'm not like some random stranger. I'm actually kind of like part of it, if that makes sense.
That's really what gives a good experience on a wedding day as well, as if you're just one of the gang that shows up, and that's why we put a lot of emphasis in learning people's names as well, right? You get to really learn our style, and most people drop their guard a little bit once they understand that it's not just static poses and kind of boring stuff. It's a lot of fun, playful things that we get them to do, and just have fun really at the end, because we want to just sell the experience of being in our company.
Like cool people. You
yeah,
know?
Exactly. We're
like,
cool.
We're
the
like
cool kids.
We're like in and like hip.
Yeah, we have Riz.
Or Rizzy. One important note that I wanted to like put out there as well is I always find a huge difference when it comes to couples who've had an engagement session and they've shared these photos with friends, family, by either putting them online or sharing the gallery, however it is that people have done it. All of a sudden on the wedding day, if I say like, oh, I need this, like people are like jumping to help me. I can remember when I first started and I wasn't maybe doing as many engagement sessions or like new to the game. If I would have moms or like bridesmaids or whatever, just almost like on top of me, like kind of micromanaging me. because it almost felt like they didn't trust me. They didn't know that I was actually like a good photographer. And so I found that it's built a lot of trust, not only with the couple, but also we've had people come up to us at the wedding and be like, oh, did you do the engagement photos? And then we'll be like, yeah, you're good. They have this approach towards us that's like, you know what you're doing. Like, we'll get out of the way. Like, we're going to make your life easier versus harder, because you do really have like so much talent. And so I personally think that that's also another big reason to do it. It helps make that process easier.
So if you're not including engagement sessions in your packages or not trying to upsell them, it's definitely something that's beneficial not only to your couple, but to yourself as well.
I'm trying to think of how many engagement sessions I've done over the years, and I don't even know if I could count. I've probably done 250 engagement sessions at least. And I think the ones that stand out to me the most are the ones where people have taken me to like a private, like secluded, it sounds dodgy, but like a private place, like a cottage or a family home or a special spot perhaps where they met on their first date. I feel like obviously I have lots of recommendations for my couples of locations, but my biggest tip is that if you can choose a spot that has meaning, that is going to go a really long way. And so some of my favorite ones have always been like a cottage where we've gone on somebody's boat or we've gone and captured that. And then another thing that I always encourage couples to do as well is to choose a season and a location that is different looking than your wedding venue is. So if your wedding venue is like all indoors, all outdoors, it's like greenery, rolling hills, whatever, lots of trees, I think it's important to choose a location that's different for that. So maybe choose like an urban center, like a downtown. Where we lived, like the downtown core is really beautiful. There's lots of architecture, there's lots of different buildings. There is some greenery if you want, but at least there's just like a variety so that you can get just like a different look and also a different season. Like if you're getting married in the fall, why would you go and have fall style photos?
Maybe all they love is the fall.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. And I know that I've asked lots and lots of couples to do this, and I've had multiple of them say that they were so glad that we did that because it just gave them a different look, a different vibe. And especially if, say, for instance, you chose a venue because you just really loved it for a couple of different reasons, but you almost maybe wanted to do it somewhere else, or you wanted to have your photos done somewhere else, or you just like both looks. I think that it just gives you that variety in that as well. And also ask your photographer where they want to. One of the things that I've done, and I did even last year, is there was some new spots that I wanted to check out. So I just asked my couples, like, hey, how would you feel about going to this new spot? It's totally new. We're going to take a little bit more time to do it. So instead of an hour, I'm going to do an hour and a half because I just don't know the location. And I got some really cool, amazing photos by doing that. And so I think that it's also just like shows that you can be creative and on the fly and things like that as well. So
yeah, that's why we have a list of the spots that we'd like to shoot in one of our blog posts. And we have to probably go update that because I'm not too sure if, you did update it, if we've hit all those different spots. But there's definitely a lot to choose from. Some of the notable ones that I can think of was we went to the bridge that had the locks on it, and this couple had already locked one of their love locks into it, and we went to visit it with them on this kind of waterfall lock thing. And then the other one that I can really think of is we did one on a yacht. I love boats, but all I was thinking was we did one on a yacht. And that was really fun. Yeah,
Luke had to like land his drone on it and kind of had to grab it out of midair. I still don't know to this day how you did that. Yeah.
And then we had to tell him to turn around because I couldn't get the drone to fly out all the way to us.
And they had a captain driving the boat, anyways.
It was probably like $150 just to turn around of gas and rental time for this captain. And if there's anything that's really important to your relationship or the two of you, is you can always include that in the engagement session. If it's a type of drink or food, or if it's a clothing location, just even an activity. If you go sip on some sundaes, well, not sip on sundaes, but sip on some milkshakes and eat a sundae, a banana split or whatever it is. I'm thinking olden times, I don't know why. But there's a lot of things that you can incorporate, or if you're both gamers, go to an arcade or whatever it is that you want to do. And the engagement session is a great way to bring out some of that personality that you're, like you said, are maybe not going to have on your wedding day, but it's something different that you want to incorporate into a special moment to have captured in your lives.
All that to say, you should have an engagement session. We really think that they will only amplify your day and make it that much better, that much easier. And honestly, you're already spending however much money. At the end of the day, you want your photos to be good. I highly recommend it. Don't cheap out on it. I promise that it'll be worth it.
Yeah, as a vendor or as a client, I think both of you would benefit from an engagement session. So push it as a vendor, accept it as a couple, and just have fun with it. Don't be afraid. It's all a learning experience for everyone to get comfortable and know each other. And in the end, we're both going to come out with something that's better than nothing.